Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Nikki LaRose, and in today's video, I wanted to share some pro makeup tips that are easy to follow along with, super digestible, and will change your makeup. Okay, so we're gonna get into the first tip and we're gonna focus on eyeliner. So eyeliner is something I get asked about constantly. I want to share a couple really easy tips on how you can do a wing liner. So whether you have deep set eyes, hooded eyes, as you know, or you may have noticed, I have two very unsymmetrical eyes. You know, it's something I just have to admit that it is the way it is. I can't do anything about it. This eye is not hooded at all. Really not even in the slightest is this eye hooded. This eye, on the other hand, has a visible hood that goes over it. It makes it extremely difficult to match my wing liner on this eye to this eye because one's hooded, one is not. One of the best and easiest techniques to apply your pencil liner, what you're gonna do is just take that liner, you're gonna place it in between where your top and your bottom lash line meet. So the inner part, you wanna put this basically, think tight lining, but you're only gonna be there for a second. So you're gonna take the pencil and you're gonna close your eye on pencil and drag it straight out. I'm just doing it a couple times so you can kind of get the visual of what it looks like to do this. So that's what you end up with. Now it's gonna look messy at first, but this is where you're gonna go in with any kind of brush, any kind of smudging brush, something small or flat. It could be an angle brush like this, or it could be like a thin smudger brush. I'm gonna take an angle brush and just start to pull with my eyes gently closed. Now the reason why you want to close your eyes at some points of this application, it's gonna make your eyes a little bit tighter, your skin around your eyes a little bit tighter when you close it. So therefore you'll have an easier time pulling that liner out because your skin will be more taut. So now we've created this perfect little wing. It's perfect. So we're just gonna fine tune it by pulling it out even more and then switching the angle of my brush, pulling it in. Now here's where I have an extra tip for you. This is another game-changing tip. So you see how the end of that liner is not tapered. It's not as crisp as you would hope or want. There's two things you could do. One of them being my absolute favorite. You can just take a flat brush. It doesn't even have to have concealer on it if you just lightly wet it. So what I'm gonna do is just spray it. You can spray it with water, anything, whatever's near you. I just have a little bit of Fix Plus. I'm just gonna spray that brush just very, very lightly. It's barely wet. It does not need to be sopping at all. You're gonna take this, close your eye as you pull it, again, so you get that taut skin, like that tight skin. You want it to be closed so it's a little bit more firm, basically, when your brush hits your skin. So I'm just gonna show you one more time for demonstrative purposes. You're gonna close as you pull it, and then you get the most perfect tapered liner every time. This is a no-fail, game-changing move. This is what's gonna take your eyeliner to the next level and really make it look like you have some great makeup skills. So I highly recommend you try this. It's really simple. It's really easy. Once you practice it, you'll get the hang of it. Now I want to show you another trick and some more helpful tips on liner for hooded eyes. Now I'm going to show you on my actual hooded eye. This is my hooded eye. So we're going to tackle liquid liner, which I'm sure is so daunting to anyone that has hooded eyes, right? I completely feel you. I totally understand. Now, before you go in with your liquid pen, I want you to kind of sketch out the area that you're going to place that liquid liner. So for this part, you're going to pre-map out your wing liner. That way, when you go in with your liquid pen, it's less daunting, it's less scary, and you're just going to be basically filling in, drawing on top of the line that you already created. So it's way easier, way less daunting, like I said. So just take any powder eyeshadow. I'm just going to use a drugstore favorite. It's the Milani Gilded Mini Palettes in the shade Whiskey Business. But use any neutral dark matte shadow to trace this step. Now I'm going to take the same angle brush. Any flat, very stiff angle brush will work. So I'm just going to tap this into this dark brown shadow. Because remember, it doesn't really matter the color too much. You want to make sure you have something that's a little bit lighter than the actual liner that you're going to put on top. So if you're using a black liquid pen liner, try tracing beforehand with a dark brown or a medium brown shadow, so that way you just kind of hide it when you go on top of it with the liquid liner. Okay, so this is where you want to make sure you slow down. I talk about this a lot. Slow down, make sure you are standing up straight, and make sure if you have hooded eyes, you are looking directly into a mirror. So that's exactly what I'm going to do right now. I'm just going to hold this little compact mirror up and straight ahead so I can look directly into it. This is crucial. Now you're just mapping it out, so it's not the end of the world if you mess up. It's just shadow. You can wipe it off very easy and very quickly. So this is where you can really get some good practice in as far as your placement goes. So taking the angle, what you're gonna do is you're gonna act like you don't even have a hood. You're gonna act like there's no fold, there's no skin in your way. You're gonna act like it doesn't even exist, and you're gonna draw directly on it like it's not even there. This is the trick to hooded eyes and liner. So I'm going to look straight ahead. Now I want the placement to be somewhat like the other one on the other side. even though we're using two different products. So I'm going to line this brush up where the top and the bottom lash line meet. So that little inner corner. Now I'm not going to put this brush in my eye like I did with that pencil. That's a little dangerous. But instead I'm going to find where that is and I'm just going to stamp it. So that's it. You just stamp. Just stamp and lightly pull it out. Okay, so that's our wing. We got our tail on. Now we just need to do a little bit of a connecting line to connect the tail of the wing to the top lash line. So taking a little more shadow, I'm going to flip my brush and I'm going to just line this up right there. I'm not paying any attention to the fact that I have a hooded eye. I'm just acting like it doesn't exist. I'm not going to give it any power. I'm just going to go right on top of it. So now you're going to be left with a little hole like this. That doesn't matter. No one's going to be able to see it. But if it bugs you, look up a little bit and then just fill in lightly the gap. Now remember, this does not have to be perfect because we're going to go over it with the liquid liner. This is going to be our tracing method. We're going to just trace on top of this. But I still want to go further up on my lash line to create more of a wing. Just stamping it on. Really taking my time just to press it. I'm not going back and forth. I'm really just doing a stamping and pressing motion. Okay, our trace is there. Take a good look at it because now you're going to go in with the more difficult part. So now that this little roadmap is created and it's on our eye, you know, you don't have to be so careful of like where you're looking in the mirror and if you're looking straight ahead or like where, you know, your angles and things like that. You want to be mindful, of course, but it's not as serious now because now you're just going to have fun tracing on top. So taking my liquid liner, this is from Valentino Beauty. It's a black felt tip pen. I'm going to start the inner and bottom. I'm resting my pinky too. You'll notice this is also crucial for stability. I'm going to rest my pinky and just pull it, pulling it in. And again, we're pretending like we don't have any hood. Like there's no hood, it doesn't exist. We're just going over top like it's not even there. So I like to start at the wing because that's where I started the trace in the first place. And just to me, I like to get the most important part over with, which is the wing. And then you trace on top and you connect that line to your top lash line, just like we did with the shadow. So now that the initial wing is done, I'm going to flip the angle of my pen and draw straight out. Until we reach this point where we have a little gap, and then you're going to go straight across and fill it in. Okay, so off camera, I just applied my foundation. I applied one of my favorites, the Jouer Backstage Face and Body in the shade 2.5W. Now, this next tip is about nose contour. Really easy, foolproof nose contour. Now, this is what I want you to do. I want you to apply this after you have your foundation on, so after your base is applied, but before you do your under eye concealer. This is crucial because that's going to be part of how to contour your nose in a really easy way. So taking a cream bronzer, this is from Rare Beauty, it's the shade Happy Soul. I'm gonna twist this up a little bit so I can get a little bit of the end, like the edge of that product. And this is what you're gonna do. You're gonna take this, you're gonna carve out this little nook of your eye and just drag it straight down. It's gonna look messy, that's totally fine. It does not need to be perfect right now. It's all about just getting this on. So right here in this little inner corner of your eye, like right around and right above the tear duct, along the side of the bridge of the nose and up towards the inner part of the brow. So this is where I want you to take this placement into consideration. Place that bronzer right there and then sweep it down. And then you can go underneath. You can do a little button effect, whatever you prefer. Now you're gonna take a blending brush, preferably like an eyeshadow blending brush, anything that's just small and fluffy and it's gonna get the job done, and just blend it. So taking your brush, I like to start in the inner part of above my tear duct, right in this little socket, and just start to gently blend out that bronzer. Now, as soon as I blended out most of the product in this inner part of my eye, with whatever's left over, I start to just kind of gently push this up into the very inner parts, like the beginning of my brow. So what you're doing is you're creating depth, you're creating the illusion of a deeper set eye. So if you don't have deep set eyes, or if you have hooded eyes, or if you have a monolid, this is gonna be a really cool technique to utilize because it's gonna give you the illusion of having that depth in your eye. So sweeping it across, I have no eyeshadow on, so this would be a nice beginning step to creating that depth into my crease before I even go in with eyeshadow. So now blending this down. So now you're done blending this inner part above the tear duct. You're gonna sweep it down your nose. It does not need to be perfect at all. You just need to get it blended, and then sweeping around, just blend out the whole nose. Just give it a nice rough go. Same thing, I'm just gonna blend this across the crease, blend it down. Now, of course, it doesn't look great right now, right? Because it doesn't have the balance of the concealer along the sides, which is going to really bring out this nose contour and really just make it look perfect and pro-like. Basically, you're going to look like you're a pro at contouring your nose if you utilize these simple techniques. Okay, nose contour is blended. So I'm going to take a concealer now and finish off this nose contour and also just conceal my under eyes. So this is the new HD Skin from Makeup Forever. It's in the shade 2.2N. I'm going to take this. The placement of this is going to be key. So take your applicator. You could also use a brush to dip into this. In fact, let me show you both ways. You can take a brush if you don't want to use the doe foot. Take your flat brush and you're going to line it up along the side of your nose and go straight down. This is not groundbreaking, but it's one of those techniques where if you utilize it, it will just transform your makeup look and just give it that edge, give it that pro, really polished look. So same thing on this side. You're just lining it up along the side of your nose. It's going to be different for everyone, the placement, the exact placement, but roughly, I want you to line it up pretty high up along the side of your nose. This is what gives you the contoured effect. So by bringing that light right up to where you have the deeper shade and the bronzer along the side of your nose, that contrast is what's really going to pull in your feature, pull in your nose and make it look thinner if that's what you're trying to do. Okay, for this next part, this is optional, but if you can pull it off and you can take your time and practice it, it really does make a huge, huge difference. So you're gonna take a little bit more concealer. You're gonna angle your brush so it's facing the skinny side down, and you're gonna look straight into the mirror and try your best to draw a little straight line and then connect it up here and do a little highlight action. Now here's where you wanna let this chill for a little bit. You wanna let this kind of marinate and self-set, and in the meantime, while this is drying down, I'm gonna take more concealer and actually cover my under eyes where I have dark circles. Same out here. Now another tip to get the most out of your concealer is not completely blending it out right when it hits your skin. Instead, you wanna give it some time to dry down. So what I like to do is do a little rough draft, like a little rough blend first. And what I mean by that is just taking a small brush and tapping this into my skin, pressing it in. I'm not going back and forth. I'm not creating a bunch of friction with my concealer. I'm just giving it a light pre-blend. This is like your pre-blend. So it's gonna look something like this. You wanna see visible, unblended concealer, but you wanna make sure that this area right here is just softly blended. So same thing on this side. Just gonna tap it in. Tap it in. Just get that rough little blend. And now while that's drying down even more, what it's gonna do is it's going to give you the most coverage with your concealer. So have you ever thought like, you know, I put so much concealer on, but then once I blend it on, I still need more. I still feel like I lose the coverage when I'm blending. It's because you could be too aggressively blending and really blending that product up and off your skin, which defeats the purpose of concealer, right? You want your concealer to conceal and stay put and not move. So this is gonna be a game changer. If you want the maximum amount of coverage out of your concealer, this is going to be the tip for you. So I'm just blending out that little highlight that we did between my brows, and we're gonna give this even more time. So I'm gonna give this maybe like 30 more seconds, and then we'll come back and we'll blend out the edges. Okay, so now that we've let our concealer properly dry down and self-set, now it's not completely dry, don't get me wrong. You'll still be able to maneuver your brush and blend out the edges, but it's self-set enough that you're gonna keep all that coverage even when you go in with your brush and you blend out the edges. So take the same brush, I didn't mention it, it's a 206 from BK Beauty. Any small fluffy brush will do. I'm gonna start where I see the visible, unblended lines of the concealer. So right underneath my lash line, sweeping it out towards my temple. This is also a little bonus because it gives you a little lift up, like a little lifted effect with your eye. And then of course, right here, you see that big line. You're gonna just blend and blend very lightly. It may look like I'm doing hard pressure, but I'm doing really light pressure. Just blend that concealer in so it meets up with that cream bronzer and creates this really soft gradient, hard to detect nose contour. So blending down now that I've blended into the nose contour and that bronzer, I'm going to blend the rest of it down the side of my nose. Same thing on this side, blending it in to the nose contour, blurring the line between the two so they connect and they just kind of melt together. That's the whole point. And then same thing, I'm gonna blend out those visible lines, but I maintained all the coverage. I kept all the coverage. I didn't blend it off my skin, and I'm getting the most out of my concealer, truly. Okay, so now we've let this dry down properly, and now this is going to be a solid highlighter. So you're probably wondering how we're going to blend this out. Well, you can either take your brush, that's totally fine, but let me show you a different technique just in case you need it. Take your beauty sponge. It could be damp, it could be dry, lightly dampened like mine is preferable, but you don't want it sopping wet, because if it's sopping wet, it's going to just lift up that concealer that we had dried down, and it's going to just eliminate it and defeat the whole purpose. So mine is barely damp. That's what you want. Again, or dry is fine too. I'm just lightly tapping it into the nose. I'm not moving it around. I'm not pushing too hard because that would just lift it up. This is a very delicate spot of your nose, and you want it to be nice and gentle. That's it. Blend it into the nose. You still have a nice subtle highlighter going down your nose, which you want it to be subtle. You don't want it to look like a racing stripe down your nose. I mean, you can if you want that look, that's totally fine. No judgment at all. But if you want a really soft, natural way to highlight and contour your nose, this is it. This next tip is for anyone who's reached out to me and asked specifically, how do I prevent my bronzer and my blush from looking muddy together? Well, it's very, very simple. It's all about how you layer and how you blend on those products. So let me start with the bronzer, because this would go first, of course. So starting with your bronzer, I'm gonna take that same bronzer that I used earlier, and you're gonna contour or bronze however you normally would. So taking a 106 from BK Beauty, I'm gonna start by tapping this in. Now I'm gonna show you one side that's easy, it's foolproof. Now I want you to pay attention to how I blend this on. I'm not buffing it back and forth. I'm just tapping it into my skin. I'm not creating too much friction. I'm not lifting up my foundation that's underneath. I'm tapping it in. This is my favorite method for applying anything cream on my face or liquid. So now that my bronzer is on, let me grab a cream blush. For cream blush, I'll be using the Danessa Myricks Yummy Skin in the shade Rosé and Brunch, and switching to a Angie Hot and Flashy A507 brush. This has a little angle on it. I'm gonna dip into my product. But before this hits my face, I like to pre-blend my product, as I'm sure you know by now, onto the top of my hand, making sure that I don't have too much product that's going to hit my skin. Obviously, I put a little too much on my brush, but just pre-working that into my skin and doing all the pre-blending. This is crucial to not over-blending your products once they're both lined up together. This is how you avoid that muddied effect with your makeup products, like your blush and your bronzer more specifically. So pre-blending is one of the key steps in avoiding that with your makeup. So now that my blush is pre-blended on my brush, this is going to hit my skin, and it's going to make it 10, 20, 30 times easier to do this. So taking my brush, and you're just going to layer this lightly on top of your bronzer. Now notice I said lightly. I'm not just buffing it on. I'm not trying to over blend it, because the more you blend and buff and work onto your skin, the more you create a muddied effect where it's melting and it's literally mixing the two shades together. You're mixing your blush into your bronzer, and that's what's giving you that muddied effect to your makeup. So now that we've already pre-blended that blush, we're done. It's blended. It took minimal effort. We did all the effort just pre-blending it onto the hand. So now this is the easy way to do your blush and your bronzer application so they look harmonious. They look like they are best friends. They're not fighting each other, and they're definitely not muddy. So now let me show you how it goes wrong and how easy it can go wrong on this side. So I'm gonna take the same products. I'm gonna start with the bronzer first. Same brush. Now I'm gonna blend it the way I wouldn't normally blend it. Okay, now this is how I would not normally blend my bronzer. It may look fine, but it just looks fine. And there's areas I can already see where it's lifting up my foundation. It's looking a little patchy, and it's looking a little bit uneven, right? So blending, it's on, it's blended. Now I'm gonna go straight in with my blush. And instead of using my method of pre-blending onto the top of my hand, I'm gonna take the product from the pan and hit my skin with it. Okay, so this is where it goes wrong. So obviously you have a little too much on your brush. So what do you do to fix that? You over blend, because you think, well, I have too much product on, so I need to just really work to blend this so it looks harmonious and so it looks good, right? And so it's blended into my skin. So you're working, you're pulling overtime to blend, and you're like, okay, well, it's looking patchy, it's looking weird, it's lifting up the foundation, but also more importantly, let me switch my brush. It's creating a muddied effect because it's just layered on top. It's just blended into the bronzer. The blending application is not where it's at. You don't want to go back and forth to blend. This is not going to help to blend your makeup and make it look flawless. This technique is not for it. This is for foundation. You could do this kind of back and forth motion for your foundation to really blend it into your skin. But when you're doing colors and you're using colored blush and bronzer, this is what gives those products that muddied effect, this mixing method. You don't want to mix the two together. That's how you create that muddied look. Instead, you want to take this same thing, you just want to tap it on. That's what creates that nice, beautiful, perfected look to your makeup. That's what gives you this result and not this patchy, muddied effect with your makeup. Okay, now this next tip is for lip liner. This is going to make it so much easier to apply your lip liner. So if you're someone who struggles with getting a smooth, even line with your lip liner, this is what I want you to do. This is a game changer. Instead of just lining your lips with your mouth open, like let's say you have just, you're going to go in for it. Let me show you like what I don't recommend, which is basically going so see how because my lips are not taut, because they're not stretched in any way, the skin is really loose and there's a lot of wiggle room. You don't want that wiggle room. If you're having a hard time getting a smooth line, you don't want to have any wiggle room, okay? So instead of just having your lips open or at rest like this would be at rest right here. That's at rest, okay? There's no muscle flexing, there's nothing like that. So instead, what you want to do to get a smooth line is you want to gently smile. By smiling just gently, not over the top, but just gently, you're going to actually stretch your lips. Therefore, you're going to get a smoother application because your skin on your lips and around your lips, your whole mouth area, is going to be more taut. So more tight, more taut, hence easier to get a straight line. So I can't talk for this, so let me just demonstrate on this side the way I prefer you do it. It's going to be much easier. Game changer. It is an absolute game changer. Doing this technique when your lip is taut and it's more stretched will change your lip game, I promise you. For demonstrative purposes, I'm going to do the bottom now. And then once again, let's just do it the way I don't recommend, which is just having your lips just at rest. And this is only if you struggle with this. If you don't have a problem with this and you don't have a problem getting your lip liner look smooth when you're applying it, then don't even worry about it. But if you are struggling with this, trust me. So I'm just going to be at rest again. Let me even this out. Now, it might not seem like the biggest difference visually, but you're going to really feel the difference of this technique versus not using this technique. So here is a little side-by-side of what they look like. This is the taut side, in case you can't tell, but I promise you, you'll be able to feel it when you're at home doing this technique. And this is the at-rest side. Now, one last tip in regards to the lip. Let's say you go a little too far down with your bottom lip and you want to just reshape it, clean it up, give it a little lift, give it a little bit of more oomph. So this is what I want you to do. You're going to take your flat concealer brush and a little bit of either your foundation or a concealer, either one. You're not going to need a lot of coverage for this. You just want a little subtle effect. So taking your brush, so let me just show you too what I mean. So let's say you go a little too far down on your lip line. You don't want to overline this inner corner of your bottom lip because that actually drags your bottom lip down. That's not the most flattering way to wear your lip liner. So instead, to fix this, to give us more of a lifted look, and it will still make your lips look full too, trust me. Take your concealer on a flat brush and pull it straight up. Straight up, so where it meets the opening of your top and bottom lip. So right here. Sweeping it up. And then from there, just blend out the excess. And you have a nice, subtly lifted bottom corner of your lip. This is going to be so much more flattering, especially in photos and in person too. Just in general, it's a very flattering way to wear your lip liner. So if you ever make that mistake of going just too overboard on the bottom framing of your lip where it's giving that illusion of your lip being dragged down and pulled down. This will give you that instant lifted look to your bottom lip. Super flattering. It's like a little mini lip lift all in one. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, of course, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I also have tons more videos where this one came from. You can check them out right here, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.